In this video, we will be tackling topics on life science, more on the reproductive systems, and for instance, what you're seeing right now is about gestation. Um, the reason why I'm doing this, you might already know that this topic has been discussed before, but unfortunately, there had been technical problems. The video I made on the same topic did not have any volume, although based on the screen recording itself, it did have volume, but when I posted it on YouTube, there was no volume at all. So that was back when my iPad had some problems. But now I think well, the damage is irreversible. I tried several solutions, but none of them worked. And this is why I'm making this video. This time for sure there is audio. I'm confident that there is audio. So yes, let's start. So gestation takes 40 weeks. It's divided into 3 trimesters. First trimester, second, and third. For the first trimester, this is from weeks 1 to week 13. For the second trimester, this is from week 14 to 27. And the third trimester is from weeks 28 to 40. So 40 weeks is approximately 9 months. And that's why usually um, it is a common term to say 9 months for when referring to a time or duration for a baby to develop. So yeah, for from weeks 1 to 2, the woman is not pregnant yet. The body is preparing for pregnancy. Um, for as of week 2, the egg released from ovary in ovulation. So um, there is a fertility window, and um, there is a time when the egg would be released from the ovary, and that would signify ovulation. And by the end of week 2, the baby is conceived in conception or fertilization. So this is the um, genetic material from the father. This is where the genetic material from the father and the mother would basically combine, and a unique genetic code would form. That's why this explains why fathers and mothers, half of their genetic traits are passed to their offspring. So yeah, that's it. Week 3, the zygote or embryo divides to form a blastocyst. This has two groups, the baby and the tissues for nourishment. This is in the inner layer, and this one is the outer layer. For the fourth week, the blastocyst moves to the uterus, hatches out of the outer layer, and implants into the uterus wall. So overall, wait, let's uh, let's finish until week 10. From weeks 5 to 10, this is called the embryonic period. Major organs start to grow. Uh, the placenta and the umbilical cord support. It basically provides support by providing oxygen and nutrients to the embryo. So yeah, what's formed at this point is the brain, the heart, the spinal cord, the bones, the muscles, and the skin. And by the end of week 10, this embryo is now called a fetus. And yes, during the first trimester, symptoms are, of course, periods would stop. This is one solid symptom. If you still have periods, then you're not pregnant. You're nauseous, breasts are tender, you have mood swings, you're tired, you experience fatigue more often, um, change in weight. It depends. You gain weight or you lose weight. It depends on certain factors, which I will not explain because I don't know. But yes, changes in weight, that's a symptom. Constipation, and you either crave or dislike foods. In Filipino, I think there's a word for that, paglilihi. Uh, sometimes you crave for a specific kind of food. If you like fast food, you'll crave for you will crave for fast food. So yes, let's move to the second trimester, weeks 14 to 27. At this point, by the way, before we proceed, first trimester, by week 13, the fetus is 3 inches long. By the second trimester, by week 27, do we still call it fetus by that time? Well, essentially, by week 27, is already 12 inches long. So let's start with week 14 first. So the fetus forms the sex organs. The eyelids are closed. By week 16, what's this? Lanugo on head, sucking. I forgot what this means, but for extra reference, you can research on this. Weeks by week 20, the baby can hear, swallow, and the fetus becomes more active. I think this is where the baby starts kicking. I can't be sure, but basically, what's sure is that the fetus is more active, and you can think based on that information. And this is where an ultrasound exam is usually done. You're definitely pregnant by this time, so have an ultrasound, you'll see the fetus. By week 24, lungs are formed and the heartbeat is hearable. So when the doctor places the stethoscope at the belly of the woman, it is possible for the heartbeat to be heard. By week 28, um, well, there's some information on that. Symptoms for the during the second trimester. So there is less fatigue or nausea, darker nipple skin, linea nigra, stretch marks. The baby would move more often because again the fetus becomes more active, and there would be swelling. Weeks 11 to 13, the arms and legs grow longer. Fingers would start moving. Um, it would be possible already. Toes would finish developing, and the face would be finished. So by this time, the face of the baby is already formed. Now, by the third trimester, week 28, the fetus is 12 inches. By week 32, the fetus gains weight fast. The eyelids open and close. The eyes can sense light. And by week 36, the bones harden. But the skull region, it wouldn't harden yet because this allows for easy passage through the birth canal. So if ever the skull region, let's say only in theory, let's say if it hardens, then there would be a problem because it has to be soft for easy passage through the birth canal. The baby in head down position would prepare for birth. So it's already in head down position uh, before the time comes when it has to be conceived. I think that's the word. Is it when the OB-GYN doctor um, delivers there? That's the word. Delivers the baby from the womb. By week 40, all organs are ready to function. The baby could be born at any time. So what are the symptoms during the third trimester? We have short breath, heartburn, swelling, colostrum, sleep deprivation. Yes, this is actually a symptom. Hemorrhoids, false labor pains, and true labor contractions. So usually, if you're nearing, if you're closer to the 9th month, when it's usually time to deliver the baby, you'll be experiencing painful contractions. So it's called labor. So yeah, that's it for gestation. 40 weeks or 9 months. Then the baby would be born. Next. Okay, there's no back page. Okay, this you might have already guessed it. This is the female reproductive system. So, where do we start? Let's start first with the ovary. The ovaries, here and there. Um, Ovaries are glands. That's why technically, the ovaries and for the male counterpart, I think it's the testes. They are parts of the endocrine system. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but um, from what I remember back in seventh grade, um, one disease of the one of the endocrine organs, that is the testes, is undescended testes. Anyways, let's resume. Ovary is a gland. It produces and stores ovum, and it secretes estrogen and progesterone. These are hormones exclusive to a woman. But I think one of these are also found in the male counterpart. I'm not sure. But testosterone definitely is exclusive to men, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong there also. Okay, so we have the infundibulum and the fimbriae. Um, I can't really explain how they're relevant with the ovary, but essentially they all help bring the egg cells from the ovary to the fallopian tube. That's essentially the idea. Um, the fallopian tubes or uterine tubes or oviducts, they're by the way all the same thing. This is where the ovum passes from the ovary to the uterus. And this is the site of fertilization. So usually when the sperm coming from here, this is the vagina. When the sperm enters, it goes through the uterus and goes here to the fallopian tubes. This is where fertilization happens, not here, here. So let's move to this part. So this essentially is the uterus. These three are linings. Um, think about the Earth's core. We have the crust. That's one of the outer linings. The mantle is the one in between the crust and the core. The core is the innermost lining. Although it may not be officially okay to word it that way, but essentially, the myometrium is the thickest layer. It is made out of smooth muscle, and this is where well, it's involved in the contractions during labor. The endometrium, this is mucus, mucosal. There is mucus in that layer. This is the inner lining of the uterus. This is what is shed during your period, during the period of a woman, and there are numerous glands here. We have the perimetrium. If you might have already figured out, endometrium is the innermost lining. The myometrium is the one in the middle. The perimetrium is the outermost. And it is made out of epithelial cells and connective tissue. So let's go to the uterus. The uterus is the site of fetal development. So once fertilization happens at the fallopian tubes, um, it would move here, the fertilized egg cell. And this is where, well, technically this is the womb. So it would expand. So the walls include 3 layers. Those layers are these 3. And this is where essentially the embryo is nourished and developed before birth. Next. So here, this is the cervix. This is what connects the uterus and the vagina. And in other words, it's usually called the neck of the uterus or the opening of the uterus. It allows for fluids to pass between the uterus and the vagina. For instance, sperm. And the vagina itself is the birth canal, and it is acidic in order to protect against bacterial infections. I believe this property of being acidic is also the reason why um, many sperm cells die while they're still here, and only a few are able to reach this region, the fallopian tubes. So, yes, um, you were not a mistake. I think that's the implication to this. Okay, next. Okay. Um, this part is not complete, but essentially these are the three common hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. I know one of these are responsible for the secretion of milk. Um, Once a baby is delivered, a woman would produce milk. I think that's the case, usually. But let's go here. This is the ovary in a magnified illustration. So we have follicles, the granulosa cells. The granulosa cells produce estrogen and progesterone, among other things. The rupture of a follicle enables ovulation. So this happens regularly whenever a woman starts ovulating. And this becomes the corpus luteum. It contains the granulosa cells. So that's it. Testosterone is secreted by the adrenal glands. Okay, what is this? Reproductive cycles. Okay, something similar has been already discussed, but let's go through each detail. So the ovaries contain follicles, as stated earlier. In connection to what was stated earlier, these follicles contain immature eggs. This is the female reproductive cell, the egg cell. Um, Ovulation and menstrual cycle, 28 days duration. Ovulation preparation. Okay, this is the process for ovulation preparation. So the FSH, let me think what this stands for. Uh, Follicle stimulating hormone. I think that's the complete term, if I remember correctly. It stimulates the follicles. The immature egg begins to grow and produce estrogen. This estrogen would enter the bloodstream and send signal to prepare the uterus for pregnancy. So let's go to the endometrium. This is essentially covered with a thick and spongy layer. It has mucus, as mentioned earlier. By day 7, the dominant ovum produces a lot of estrogen for the brain and the pituitary gland. I'm not sure how or what verb is right to use for these. Luteinizing hormone would stimulate ovulation. By day 14, the luteinizing hormone would act as an ovary and the eggs would mature. The fallopian tubes would open and expel egg. This is ovulation. The fimbriae collects the expelled egg, transports it to the entrance of the fallopian tube, and there would be a contraction to the uterus. So let me just bring you again to back to this illustration. This is the fimbriae that's being referred to. Like I said earlier, the fimbriae is responsible for helping bring the egg cell to the fallopian tubes, as mentioned here. So it would collect the expelled egg, transport it to the entrance of the FT or fallopian tubes. By day 15, progesterone is produced. This would help the second phase of menstrual cycle to occur. And during this time, vaginal discharge is produced. By day 28, menstrual cycle is complete. The body would menstruate. And next, by day 1, this is the first day of menstrual bleeding again through men's cramps. The ovule and the spongy layer from endometrium, this would be discarded through menstruation. That's the reason why it was mentioned, going back to this illustration, it was mentioned that the endometrium is what is being shed during period. So it's connected here. The spongy layer from the endometrium, more specifically, and the ovule. This happens if the woman is not well, there's no sexual intercourse and no sperm cell has met with an egg cell. So this would happen. There's always discarding whenever there's no impregnation. That's essentially the idea. Okay, um, this entire page is dedicated to the concept of fertilization. Um, so, 300 sperms enter the vagina, and yes, like I said earlier, acidity is a challenge. The sperm must pass through the cervix. This cervix is closed if the fertilization window is closed. This happens only after ovulation. The cervix is open if the fertilization window is open. This is before or during menstruation. So let's say the fertilization window is open. The sperm would swim through the cervical mucus towards the uterus. Uterine contractions help assist in sperm motility. Motility being motile, being, well, in another word, um, in its movement. Uh, Resident cells mistake sperm for foreign invaders, and that's why thousands more are destroyed at this point. Okay, where do we resume? Okay, so from here to here, a few thousand remain. Tiny cilia push the egg from the fallopian tubes to the uterus, and this surge stunts sperm motility. Um, the chemicals from the female reproductive system, they cross the acrosome of the sperm to change, and that makes the sperm hyperactive. And when the sperm reaches the sperm must push through certain layers. I'm not sure if it's right to call them layers, but two of them essentially are corona radiata and zona pellucida. Corona radiata is, in other words, the follicular cells. Um, it has to push through this in order to reach the zona pellucida, or the jelly coat. This is the outer layer of the egg. So sperm attaches to sperm receptors for acrosomal reaction. It's this one. And the first sperm to reach the layer after the ZP week, once it goes past through the ZP, it would be the one that would fertilize the egg. And as a result, there would be changes in the egg membrane. Chemicals would be produced to push the other sperms away. Once fertilization happens, this is what happens. And the membrane would be impenetrable. The zona pellucida, the jelly coat, is no longer, well, it would harden basically. The zygote goes to the uterus. This is related. But yes, essentially the idea is all the other sperm cells that did not make it will die. Only one would survive, and that's the one that matched with the egg cell. Okay, let's just see how many more pages do we have to discuss. Okay, 4 pages. Chromosomal aberrations. I think that's what we're looking at right now. Okay. I'll make a part 2 video. I'm a little tired. But technically the next video will still be about fertilization. More specifically this. Okay, thanks for watching.